Caitlin, welcome to the Futurist here at the Milken Global Conference 2025. You are a veteran at this conference, right? This is not your first rodeo.
It's not. Nearly my 20th.
Near 20th. Okay,
Yeah.
That gives us so much to talk about. So, what have you seen change from the first time you attended the conference to now?
I think so number one, the size, certainly in terms of the amount of people, but that goes to, I think, the interest in people coming together, not just to look at their own industry in finance or in healthcare or in energy, but actually working across sectors and across kind of regions, which is a very nice kind of opportunity here at the conference because there are so many diverse topics and panels and people on the sessions. So it's exciting to see kind of the diversity of kind of who is in the crowd and what we're all talking about, and hopefully finding solutions for it.
Excellent. So Caitlin is with the Milken Institute, and you work a lot on the convergence of innovation and different industries coming together. Tell us who you are, what your role is, and tell us what are you working on right now.
For sure. So I run what we call our innovative finance portfolio. So where we look at market failures and funding gaps around kind of big societal challenges and say, how can we drive more investment, if that's private investment, philanthropic capital, government funding, to be smarter, to be faster, to be better at getting capital where it needs to go. So when we see different innovations, especially in areas like climate, how do we get them not to take 5 years to get to the market, not 10 years, but right now? How can we speed up kind of the acceleration and kind of innovation piece through better investment?
Of course. One of the things that, we always kind of can equate progress and the speed of acceleration to results is technology. Undoubtedly, great technology is changing a lot. But it's not just about technology. It's not, if your stakeholders are not ready, if they're not ready to understand what it means to move forward, it's hard. Tell us about that struggle that you potentially would face when bringing industries together with innovation, with finance. What have been the challenges to make it work?
So the main challenge you just mentioned actually goes to what has changed about this conference over 20 years. I think that 20 years ago, for us to say and kind of help people understand the opportunity of a greener environment, kind of greener industry, better transportation, kind of newer opportunities for energy, that was sort of the same usual suspects talking about that. And now that has become more of a standard kind of conversation to have across industries. And I think that that's because there has been an education, kind of an understanding of what the return on investment really is when we say, let's ensure that we not just have these technologies, we deploy these technologies in our community. And so I think we have seen the market demand for not only the information here at the conference, but also the innovations, kind of in practice. We've really seen a huge uptick in market demand, which is exciting. So everything from, electric vehicles, obviously there's been ebbs and flow in the market, but, looking at that to where is my own personal energy coming from that I utilize in my house. All of those kind of innovations now I think are much more commonplace, which is exciting. That's kind of the evolution of technology. And we're seeing that not just in kind of the energy sector, but really transportation, kind of real estate, kind of across the board, which is exciting.
Let's take the transportation industry as an example. First of all, within the transportation industry, there are many different areas. You've got rail, you've got air, you've got regular commuter transportation, which is cars and vehicles on the roads. You have long distance trucking, like there are so many different places of transportation. So when we say, okay, EVs are going to change the world, we're going to be asking, okay, which transportation system will it change and how and why?
Right.
Because EVs may work well for one segment, but you can't just generalize everything, correct?
Yes.
So I just want to lay that framework down. Based on what you've seen, what are your insights on where are we with transportation transformation with electrification? Is it a one fit everybody? Do we have enough battery capacity?
Yeah.
Do we have enough, what should we know that you know?
So I think we're getting there is sort of the easiest answer. I think that it's not a one-size-fits-all kind of solution. The first part of your question, around what are some of the challenges to not just having the technology, but actually utilizing the technology. In this case, it's really about changing an entire system, right? So like even if you buy an EV, if you can't charge it at your house, or if you can't charge it in your office, you're probably not going to use it. So it's not just about the technology, it is about changing the entire system. And so same thing with trucking, or if you look at, kind of airlines and what they've done with sustainable aviation fuel, I think that it's really about understanding how do you, kind of look at the low-hanging fruit of where to start integrating this technology. It's very challenging because when you're dealing with infrastructure, and big kind of infrastructure systems, which in the United States we have not invested in appropriately, green or not, for decades. And so saying, if we're going to change it now, let's change it so that it is more sustainable in the future. So I think that we're seeing, in certain areas, yes, maybe there's more electric vehicle uptick. In some areas, we're talking about replacing bus fleets, right? Because public transportation. I live in New York City, where they're trying to upgrade the subways every day, but also to make them more environmentally friendly. We have congestion pricing now to try to help pay for that. So I think there's obviously all solutions hopefully are global but are implemented local, right? So we have to think about the local implementation.
We did an episode on the transportation revolution just a few months ago, and we focused on how LNG, as an example, LNG is changing many industries, how it's clean and so on, amazing. But we just slightly touched on EVs. Some of the things with the EV challenges are, range anxiety. We've been hearing about range anxiety. Hey, I'll buy an EV and my car runs out of juice. What am I going to do? Or one of these things. When you look at the larger infrastructure when it comes to transportation, aviation, we are nowhere close to airplanes using a battery.
Right. A battery.
Not happening. Or trains or ships using battery technology, right? So I think we have to understand what does it take. Maybe sustainable aviation fuel, SAF, is a good option for many things. Help us, figure out like what should people start thinking about, and how do we focus on the right things? I guess that's my question.
So I think that oftentimes what we're looking at is not it's either A or B. We need a spectrum of solutions. Sustainable aviation fuel, as an example, like there are things that are in a transition, right? We are transitioning to a greener economy, and so all of our activities have an immediate term solution versus a mid-range versus a long-term solution. Long term, we need to entirely invest in our electrification, right? So our grid, which is largely antiquated, and so that is not a tomorrow fix. That is not Caitlin as a consumer can say, great, I'm going to electrify everything that I possibly can, and that's going to be fine because the grid can handle it. We can't truly do that. We have better storage. We are working on, kind of having the technology to be able to kind of clean as much as we can, but we couldn't do that right now. We couldn't flip a switch, literally, and have all of that, kind of load on our grid. So I think that in the interim, you see these kind of innovations where, yes, maybe they're short term, but it is what we need to see right now. So I think it's really people focusing on not just what I need right now, but like, do I see this as a transitional option for a long-term solution?
There are many smaller regions where the population is less, there are less number of people, 10, 20, 30 million people living, and it's easier to enable an infrastructure level change because the regions and countries are very small population, but in America, you're looking at a very vast geography. So that's, I think, one of the things that always puts stress on infrastructure planning is because every mile of building something is costing you a certain amount. So I think finances need to be equally balanced with these investments need to be balanced with the idea and the initiative. Looking forward, if you had a magic wand, what would be the top 2 or 3 things that you would want to become true over the next 5 years?
So I think that I would say trying to have, kind of communities come together and think about their infrastructure, their transportation, not just as transportation, but a way to have a more kind of complete community and a sustainable community. So I think that oftentimes we'll say this is how I build my real estate and this is how I build my infrastructure. But at this point we're running out of resources. Obviously the planet is changing, and so we need to think about all of these systems integrated. And I think we don't always do a great job at that because we have existing systems, and so we try to build around them, as opposed to communities saying, let's actually just start from where we want to go in 5 years, and then make sure that all of our inputs, our water systems, our roads, our any sort of public transportation, all have that common goal. So it'd be nice to see, folks with more kind of that 5-year planning, where it is more about the integration of all of the systems and not just putting Band-Aids on individual systems. So
of course,
that's a hope. I also think that there's, a hope for more individual action. We often feel like this is an overwhelming problem and I don't know what I can do. But there are a lot of things that individuals can do, from the energy that you use, the car that you drive, or that you choose not to drive because you take public transportation. I think there's a lot of different opportunities for consumer change and kind of consumer-driven change.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate you spending a few minutes with us. And the future is definitely transforming because of technology, because of innovation, and many systems around us are going to be revolutionized undoubtedly because of what we're doing. So thank you for doing all the work you do at Milken, and we really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks for joining us. Thanks
Thank
for
you.
having us.